The Garden Report is brought to you by Prize Picks and the Game Time app.
Hey, Bobby Manning here. Noah Dalzell alongside. Celtics losing overtime to the Hawks after squandering a 3-point lead with 21 seconds left in the ball. All they had to do was get the ball in and take a foul and hit the free throws, and they win this game. And Noah, I couldn't help but go back to Sunday. Did similar things late in that game, missed free throws. Tatum missed the free throws in that game as well. And then they give the shot to CJ McCollum that he missed. And if that goes down, they lose that game in the same manner. And those things repeated themselves here tonight against the Hawks. A rough week between those two nights and the Toronto game. Got right for a moment yesterday against Orlando, and obviously they're missing Horford and Porzingis tonight. But to me, it felt like a real step back here. I don't know if they felt that way necessarily. I know Derek White didn't in the locker room after, but regardless, how do they get this thing right going forward?
I don't know. I don't know exactly
I really don't either.
I don't know exactly how they're going to fix things. I will say, I think tonight was one of those games where if you had been playing with a consistent level of engagement, focus, all those things, once in a while these games happen. But because everything's been going wrong and they're 8-8 in their last 16, those moments, those bad decisions, whether it was Drew's pass or Drew's foul or the not getting the defensive rebound or all the things that went wrong in the final minutes here, it becomes like this crisis point, right? And so that's why you want to win games, so that you can afford to make some mistakes here and there. And right now, like there's the margin of error is just huge. Like they're doing so many things that are wrong. And I don't know. I think sometimes it's been focus, sometimes it's been shot making, sometimes it just looks like they're out of sorts. Like it hasn't been one thing. I think earlier on it felt like, oh, we're diagnosing this as like they're just not. They're not playing hard enough. I don't think that's been the story of like this skid. I think that it's kind of a different issue every night, and that's what makes it harder to figure out how to fix.
Yeah, Wednesday it's effort and focus and enthusiasm for that game, and tonight it's execution late. Sunday it's execution late, and there's been many other issues across many other games at this point. They're 8-8 over the last 16, so we can run through the checklist. I think first we have to ask, have they acknowledged that there's an issue here or that things are going wrong collectively?
Yeah, and again, I think I want to say this more to our listeners and to the fans, that what they're saying to us is not necessarily indicative of what they're saying to one another. Like, I think Porzingis is the one guy where we can really count on him for a temperature check. I think Jaylen Brown as well, but we haven't heard from Jaylen in like almost a week now, right? So those two guys, I think they're good for like what they're saying to us is how the temperature of the room feels. Mazzulla, Tatum, not necessarily. So they both seemed pretty cool, cool, calm, not overreacting to this one. I don't know that that's necessarily how they felt or how the team felt. But I would be stunned if they didn't acknowledge that there was a problem, because they're losing and they're used to winning and they understand the expectations and the pressures. And this is not what anybody in this group is expecting at this point.
You mentioned Jaylen. He's struggling this year. He's said several times that the role change and coming out in first quarters or just being more of a playmaker, it's been an adjustment, it's been a challenge. Is that part of the problem here? How can you even start to address that? I think in this game, Tatum and Brown both struggled immensely, but a lot of these games, it's been Tatum allowed to have rhythm, allowed to get going, and Jaylen trying to figure out where he fits in after that. And that's a years-long problem that got much better last year and allowed them to win a championship, but is back in a pretty big way, I feel like, this year.
Yeah, they haven't been playing well off of one another. I would say
they did get that three that tied the game late, Tatum and Brown, but it's just like into the half court, one pass to the other guy, and that's all we really see between them.
Yeah, and even that, I'm like, I love when I see it, because we don't see even that often. But I mean, they were almost splitting. Joe was splitting their minutes so early on, where it felt like he was maximizing the time for them to not share the court. Right, that's the way the rotation was tonight. Was how much of their minutes
and that
were they?
Was different.
That was different, yeah. And so I take that more probably for just wanting to have one of them out there, more so than like they can't play together. But I mean, fans of this team have known for a long time, like, we'd love to see them play off of one another, involved in two-man actions more, and it's never really been a thing. Even last year, it wasn't really a thing. There were moments in the finals where I felt like we saw them play off of one another in a way that we hadn't really before. And I don't know why they don't do it more often, but the Jaylen thing, I think he's just having an inefficient season. I think that he's struggling. It happens. I think he's dealing with some injuries. as well, maybe more than people realize. Like, I feel like sometimes he doesn't look like he's quite himself out there from a physical standpoint.
Too tonight.
Yeah, I don't know where he's at with his head thing. I thought he was going to be done for the night, but so there's other things that could be going on in the background too. But if those two guys don't have really good individual seasons and really good individual postseason runs, this team's not winning a championship, and that's always been the case. They're the engine that makes this team go.
And it has to connect. It can't just be my turn, your turn, and it's turning into that to some degree. We mentioned the starting lineup in another video. Obviously can't glean too much from that tonight with Porzingis being out, but numbers haven't been great. How long do you give that before you look at making a change there and going back to a Horford starting lineup?
I would give it a couple weeks, and I don't even know necessarily that it's Horford to Porzingis, but I think if your starting group is consistently putting you at a deficit, it's true of all basketball teams, like, change your starting group, right? It's not an insult to anybody that's in the starting lineup. I know people take it personally to say, like, oh, Porzingis can come off the bench. He could be the leading scorer on the team coming off the bench. I don't know that it impacts the number of shots that he's taking or of his minutes, but if they consistently are down 7, 4 minutes into the game, as we've seen be really kind of customary here, I think you have to look at it. So I would give it maybe another 2 weeks after the road trip, and if it continues, then I would mix it up.
And then, of course, trade. Could make a move. I don't anticipate anything major. I don't think they have much flexibility to do something major here, but I do think you need to give yourself some lineup flexibility. And at this point, I do think you have to find a wing who can push Hauser a little bit. We thought it might be Peterson. It's probably not, and he has a concussion right now. Walsh, probably not going to happen, and Shireman's not going to happen this year either, even with his call-up. Didn't see him at all the last 2 days here. I don't know how they get that done, but I do think they have to do something like that. Bring in a wing who can play, who can push Hauser, who, as unlucky as it's been, he missed a two-handed dunk here in the second half. It's been that kind of season for him. It just kills them that they're not getting anything there.
Yeah, there's probably going to be a minor move. We've talked about it. The trade deadline is coming up just a couple weeks from now, but I would be really surprised if it was anybody in the rotation that gets dealt. There's a couple guys that really just haven't played at all, and I don't know how much value they have right now, but I'm sure those are the names, Xavier Tillmans, Jaden Springers of the world. Like, those are the guys that I wouldn't be shocked if there was a move, and probably a backup wing is their priority. I think they have a little bit more, stability in the center rotation right now, and you just need a backup wing going into the playoffs. And again, they might know more about Sam Hauser's back injury. We know that it's been a lingering thing. They might know, like, this is not going to get better anytime soon. It might be a lot better. We really don't know. So I think that might help determine their decision to make a move or not, as it relates to getting a backup. Tough
night for Keita, too. Depth not the story right now, but a bunch of different things going wrong over the last 16 here for the Celtics, and this a tough collapse to watch here at TD Garden and the homestand, and they'll try to get right out west. We'll have coverage of it all starting in San Francisco Monday, 5 o'clock Eastern. Celtics, Warriors, Noah Dalzell and I will be there for CLNS Media. And the Garden Report, follow along. Continue to support our sponsors here. Shout out to Prize Picks, shout out to Game Time, and we'll talk to you on Monday. Hey, Bobby Manning here. If you made it this far, you probably enjoyed this video, so subscribe, turn on notifications, and check out our social media platforms at Celtics CLNS.